I'm Danny Cruz.
And I'm Sanchez, and today is Tuesday, February 20th.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This broadcast won't be like our normal broadcasts.
We are simply going to pass it over to Dr. Swanson with a very important announcement. So please, give him your attention.
Okay, good morning, Centurions. Today's Inside Scoop will be a little different from usual. Before we get into the main purpose of today's broadcast, I would like to give a quick shout out to our two playoff teams. The boys basketball team played their second round game on Friday for CIF playoffs and won by a decent margin. They play again tonight here at Century at 7 o'clock. The cost to enter is $5 for students. This is the third round playoff game, and the team is playing very well. Come out and support. The boys soccer team lost a close game at San Clemente High School to end their season on Friday. Congratulations to the team because they fought hard and represented Century well this year. Putting those two things aside, today's broadcast is more serious in nature. Last week, as you know, there was a shooting at a high school in Florida. These types of events always make us reflect on our own practices and what we can do to avoid a situation like this at all costs. As such, I would like to ask for your complete attention today. Teachers, please help me this morning in making sure that students are giving their full attention to the broadcast. We know that preparation is very important for any event like what happened in Florida, so I would like to show you a video of what to do in case there is an intruder on campus. The video you are about to see is actually intended for teachers. Even so, it will help you understand what to do and how important it is to work as a team to help keep everyone as safe as possible. The video is a little bit longer. It's about 10 to 12 minutes long, so stay with it until the end. The video shows the three options we have in case of an intruder, and the options are run, hide, or fight. Here's the video.
There's an active shooter on your campus. You hear the gunfire, the screams, the voices in distress. Your only objective is to keep yourself and your students alive. You have just moments to react. What do you do? In this presentation, we'll look at your three best options to surviving an active shooter attack. You can run, you can hide, you can fight. Let's begin with the first of our three survival strategies. Run. No matter where you are during an active shooter attack, if it's safe to do so, your first thought should be to escape. Always have a destination for your escape route. Ideally, it should be off campus, away from danger. You'll want to put as much distance between yourself and the active shooter as you possibly can. The run strategy is only appropriate when it doesn't put you or your students at greater risk. You must first try to determine your proximity to the shooter. If you see the shooter is at one end of the campus and you have the opportunity to run the other way, take it.
We're going to be leaving this room very quickly. Line up over here.
Leave all belongings behind.
Line up over here.
Keep everyone quiet. Your leadership will guide your students through their escape. Form the group into a line. Make sure all cell phones are silenced. Prior to fleeing your classroom, check the area outside. A small mirror can help you see down the hallway while still providing you safe cover. Leave only when you're certain that you have a clear path to escape.
Let's go. Let's go. Go ahead.
Follow the selected evacuation route. Move quickly and deliberately.
Run. Come on.
Break your escape route into short segments. This helps to keep everyone together and allows you to keep a watchful eye out for the shooter. Along the way, you may encounter others. Prevent them from moving toward the shooter's location and take them with you in your escape. If they will not join you, continue with your evacuation. Always move toward protective cover. This could be anything such as a wall, tree, or a vehicle that can serve as a shield. Don't wait there, but continue on to the next cover point along the route. Put as many obstacles between you and the shooter as you possibly can. When you reach an area you consider safe, call 911 and report the incident. Remain together until told otherwise.
Yes, I'm a teacher at Valley High School and we have a gunman on campus.
You may need to use a window to make your escape. Know if the windows in your classroom open wide enough to allow you and your students to pass through. If not, be prepared to break a window to escape. And if you're located above the first floor, think about having a process for lowering your students to safety. To best prepare for a window break, it's a good idea to keep a pair of work gloves, safety goggles, and even a small hammer in your desk. If you need to break a window, first move your students away from the window. You'll require something heavy, such as a fire extinguisher, to cause the break. Strike the glass where it's weakest, near one of the bottom corners. It may take several strikes. Use the hammer or some other object to clear away any large pieces of broken glass. Clear away the bottom sill and place jackets or a blanket over the area to avoid any cuts. Use a table or chairs to help with the exit.
Sergio, grab that chair. Bring it over here. Everybody, come on over. Go to building A and wait for me on the side of the building.
Identify an area for your students to run to and wait for you. Assist them out the window opening. You should be the last person to exit the classroom. Use the hide strategy when safe evacuation is not possible. Hiding involves seeking cover in as secure a location as possible. We want the shooter to either bypass our area completely or make it too difficult for him to seek us out.
So before you actually come up,
Hiding is very similar to our existing policy of lockdown. It can involve a number of tactics.
Attention all faculty. This is a school emergency. There's an active shooter on school grounds. Please take all precautionary measures.
We want to make our area appear unoccupied.
all right, everything's
If
going
it's
to be
safe
okay.
to do
Stay
so,
put.
lock your door. Shut and lock all
Daisy,
windows.
you guys get the windows, please?
Put heavy paper over windows and draw your blinds and curtains. Turn off the
All right,
lights.
everybody, just like we practiced.
Build a
let's
barricade to
Come
restrict
on.
entry into the
Come on,
room.
move the desk.
Use tables,
The
chairs,
chairs.
desks, bookcases,
Hey,
any
get the
items
boxes,
found
get
within
the
your classroom that you can pile or stack in front of the doorway. The heavier the items, the better. Create protective cover for students to hide behind by turning tables or desks onto their sides. If possible, hide students in utility closets, restrooms, or any other areas within the classroom. Noise can alert the shooter to our location. All cell phones must be silenced or turned off. This is particularly important because as news of the attack spreads, concerned parents will call their children. Everyone must remain silent. Admittedly, this will be difficult as the noise of gunfire and other cries will cause fear and anxiety, but work to comfort and quiet your students. We come now to our survival strategy of last resort, fight. If your proximity to the active shooter is so close that neither run nor hide are viable options, then you may need to take active aggression against the shooter. Your objective is to incapacitate the shooter. Our tactics are not brute force, but rather speed, surprise, and focused aggression. Now, fight is not a requirement of any school district employee. It must be a personal choice, one based solely on survival. And fight is not justification to violate the zero-tolerance policy of the school district concerning possession of weapons on a school campus.
Get down.
If you have no other alternative but to fight, here are some points to consider. Stay out of the line of fire. Use cover and concealment to your advantage whenever possible. Speed is critical. If you can, approach the shooter from his side or from behind. Use your full strength and aggression to deflect the weapon away from you and others. When you strike at the shooter, aim high, targeting his eyes, face, or throat. Use your knees to give a shot to the groin. Instruct your students to run to safety. Your primary goal should be to temporarily disable the shooter in order to make your escape. Fight can also entail the use of improvised defensive tools. You'll be surprised how many are within your reach. Textbooks, chairs, or other classroom objects can be thrown at the shooter as he enters the room. A fire extinguisher can be used as a heavy club or a spray to disorient or disable the shooter. Within your desk are sharp objects such as scissors, or even consider using a heavy object such as a skateboard to defend yourself. It's important that you never presume that someone else has already contacted 911. Even if law enforcement has been notified, your additional information will help the responding officers. With the first reports of an active shooter, law enforcement will rush to your school in force. They'll most likely group into small teams. They may be heavily armed. Their first objective will be to stop the active shooter. They won't stop to help the injured. Because they may not know how many shooters are on campus, they'll treat everyone with caution, including you and your students. When you come across an officer, obey their commands. Raise your hands with spread fingers to show you don't have any weapons, and put down any items you're carrying. Follow the officer's orders on when and where to evacuate. Having an action plan in advance of an active shooter incident is your first step toward survival. Begin by taking a physical inventory of your classroom. Identify possible ways to escape, such as doors or windows. Note materials you can use to construct barricades or provide safe cover to hide behind. And catalog the possible items that can be used for self-defense. Map out your evacuation routes. Because we won't know where the shooter will be, we'll need to create multiple routes, each leading in a different direction.
Know where all the routes in and out of it are going to be.
Together with your fellow teachers and staff, as well as local law enforcement, perform these same exercises for common areas.
Well, the two hallways lead out to the...
These include hallways, playgrounds, lunch areas, gymnasiums and assembly areas, and the library. All the places where students and staff congregate.
We're going to go through our
Equally important to planning for an active shooter attack is practicing your response. Work with your students to drill the responses for run, hide, fight on a regular basis. The more it can become second nature, the more confident you'll be should an active shooter ever strike your school.
And let's get the blinds on the windows.
Sadly, the threat of an active shooter attack in our schools will probably never go away. But if you prepare, if you know what steps to take, and if you're able to respond decisively and with confidence, you'll dramatically improve your chances of survival. And in the end, your survival and that of your students is all that matters.
What it would be like to have an intruder on campus. A couple observations before we end the broadcast. Probably the most effective thing that a class could do would be to barricade the door after it is locked. Pile up all the desks and chairs in front of the door. An intruder will not want to spend the time to move things around, and if there are 30 to 40 desks and chairs in the way, they may not be able to do so. We also learned something else that is extremely important from the Florida event last week. The intruder had been posting comments on social media that were troubling. The comments were about hurting others, shooting guns, and other similar comments. Students, we have to learn from this. I know there is a value of not saying anything to tell on your peers. I can respect that. However, when you see something that may be a comment about having access to weapons or hurting others, you have to tell someone. I will repeat that. When you see something that may be a comment about having access to weapons or hurting others, you have to tell someone. Imagine how the students in Florida who saw those posts feel now. I bet they would give anything to go back and report those comments to avoid what happened. For our teachers, this Friday is a non-student day, and one of your options for the day is to go to a run, hide, fight session by school police. I highly recommend attending. They are hour-long sessions, and I will send out the schedule if you didn't get it the first time from the district. I will also talk to our safety committee about purchasing lock blocks, which are designed for intruder situations and help keep the door locked in those cases. For any of our students, if this video or conversation is troubling for you and you need to speak to a counselor, you know you always have support here at Century. Thank you all for your attention today. Remember that safety is our first priority. This conversation is too important to skip. Thank you again for your attention.